"You don't belong here, sweetheart. This family has standards." My mother-in-law, Patricia Whitmore, said those words to me on my wedding day. Not in a quiet corner. Not in a whispered aside. She said them at the reception in front of 187 guests, with her champagne glass raised like she was making a toast. "I'm Rebecca Chen. I'm 29 years old." And that moment happened in the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel in downtown Seattle, Washington, on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My husband of exactly 4 hours, Michael Whitmore, stood right beside me. He heard every word. His face went red, but not the way you'd think. Not angry red, embarrassed red, like a child caught between an angry parent and a broken vase. "Mom, please," he muttered, looking at his shoes. Patricia smiled. She was 61, wearing a cream-colored dress that I later learned cost $4,300, and she had this way of smiling that made you feel like you were something stuck to the bottom of her Louboutin heel. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking, Michael. She's lovely, truly. But she doesn't understand our world. Our world." She said it like they lived on a different planet. The Whitmores had money. Old Seattle money. The kind that came from timber and shipping and a great-grandfather who knew when to buy land. My family? We ran a small accounting firm in Tacoma. My father immigrated from Taiwan with $800 in his pocket and built something real, something honest. But to Patricia, that made me unsuitable. The ballroom went quiet. Not silent. There was still music playing, still the clink of silverware on china, but conversation stopped. People turned. Some pretended not to hear. Others leaned in, eager for drama like it was dessert. My maid of honor, Jessica Torres, grabbed my hand under the table. She squeezed hard. Her nails dug into my palm. "Say something," she whispered, but I couldn't. My throat had closed up. My eyes burned. I'd spent $2,047 on my dress. I'd dieted for 6 months. I'd memorized the names of Michael's extended family, learned the difference between a salad fork and a dessert fork, studied wine regions like I was taking the sommelier exam. And none of it mattered. Patricia turned to the woman beside her, Michael's Aunt Diane, and said, just loud enough for our table to hear, "I told Richard we should have put our foot down, but he insisted Michael was old enough to make his own mistakes." That's when I realized I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because I was furious. Michael finally looked at me. "Becca, she's had too much to drink. Just ignore her. Ignore her. Like she was a barking dog. Like her words didn't matter." I stood up. My chair scraped against the marble floor, loud and harsh. Everyone was watching now. I could feel their eyes on me, judging, pitying, waiting to see what the poor, unsuitable bride would do next. I opened my mouth to speak. And that's when the ballroom doors opened and someone I didn't expect walked in. The man who walked through those doors was Thomas Bergman. He was 54, wearing a gray suit that looked like it had been pressed 5 minutes ago, and carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than my car. I didn't know him. I'd never seen him before in my life. But Patricia's face went white. Actually white. Like someone had drained the blood straight out of her. "Thomas," she said. Her voice cracked on his name. He walked straight to our table. He didn't look at the other guests. He didn't acknowledge the stares or the whispers that started spreading through the ballroom like wildfire. He looked only at Patricia. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said. His voice was calm, professional. "I apologize for the interruption on such a special day, but we need to talk." Michael stood up. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm Mr. Bergman. I represent the estate of Eleanor Whitmore." Eleanor, Michael's grandmother. She died 8 months ago, 2 weeks after Michael and I got engaged. I'd only met her once, at a stiff Sunday brunch where she'd asked me exactly 3 questions and nodded politely at my answers. Patricia recovered quickly. She always did. This is completely inappropriate, Thomas. Whatever this is about can wait until Monday. Actually, it can't. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Miss Chen needs to hear this. Now. Everyone was staring. The band had stopped playing. A waiter stood frozen with a tray of champagne glasses balanced on his palm. Jessica squeezed my hand again. "What's happening?" she whispered. I shook my head. I had no idea. Thomas turned to me. "Miss Chen, Eleanor?" Whitmore left specific instructions regarding this wedding. Instructions that include you. That's ridiculous, Patricia snapped. My mother-in-law barely knew the girl. Your mother-in-law knew exactly who Rebecca Chen was. Thomas's voice cut through the room like a knife. And she knew exactly what this family would do to her. He handed me the envelope. My hands shook as I took it. The paper felt expensive, heavy, old. "Open it," Thomas said gently. I looked at Michael. He looked confused, angry, scared, all at once. He didn't tell me not to open it. He didn't say anything. So I did. Inside was a letter, handwritten in elegant script. And underneath it, folded documents that looked legal and official and terrifying. The letter started with 4 words that made my heart stop. Dear Rebecca, I know everything. My hands trembled as I read Eleanor's letter. The handwriting was shaky but deliberate, like she'd forced herself to write every word despite the cancer eating through her bones. Dear Rebecca, I know everything. I know what my daughter-in-law thinks of you. I know what she's said behind closed doors. I know she called your family peasants at her book club. I know she told Michael you were a phase, something he'd outgrow. I know because I hired someone to watch her after I met you. The words blurred. I blinked hard. You remind me of myself at your age. An outsider who loved a Whitmore man. They made me earn my place at this table for 33 years. I won't let them do the same to you. Thomas stood beside me, waiting. Patient. Professional. Patricia lunged forward and tried to grab the letter from my hands. Give me that. That woman was senile at the end. Everyone knows it. Whatever poison she's written doesn't mean anything. Michael caught her arm. Mom, stop. But she didn't stop. She never stopped. This is my family, Thomas. Mine. Not some dead woman's. And certainly not this girl's. Sit down, Patricia. Thomas's voice was ice. Or I'll read the rest of Eleanor's letter out loud to every single person in this room, including the part about the $67,000 you stole from her medical fund. The ballroom went deadly silent. Patricia froze. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. That's a lie. Is it? Thomas pulled another document from his briefcase. Because I have the bank statements right here. Wire transfers, dates, amounts. 67,482.19 to be exact. Moved from Eleanor's account to yours over 14 months. You told Richard it was for her care. But the hospice bills tell a different story. Richard, Michael's father. He was sitting 3 tables away with his business partners. I watched him stand up slowly, his face gray. Patricia? His voice carried across the room. What is he talking about? Michael's hand fell away from his mother's arm. He looked at her like he'd never seen her before. Mom? It was my money, Patricia screamed. The mask was gone now. The elegant society woman vanished, replaced by something desperate and ugly. She promised it to me years ago. I was just taking what was rightfully mine. You were stealing from a dying woman, Thomas said flatly. Jessica stood up beside me. She was 5'2" and weighed maybe 110 pounds, but she stepped between me and Patricia like a bodyguard. You need to back up, now. Patricia ignored her. She pointed at me, her finger shaking. This is your fault. You and whatever sad story you told that old woman to manipulate her. I met her once, I said. My voice sounded strange, stronger than I felt. One brunch? 90 minutes. I didn't manipulate anyone. Then what the hell is this? Patricia grabbed for the documents in my hands. Thomas caught her wrist. Those belong to Rebecca now. Eleanor made sure of it. Michael finally spoke. His voice was small, broken. Mom, did you really steal from Grandma? She didn't answer. She just stood there, breathing hard, her perfect makeup cracking at the corners. And that's when I looked down at the next document in the envelope and saw the number, $850,000. The document was a trust agreement. My name, Rebecca Marie Chen, was typed at the top in bold letters, $850,000. Left to me. By a woman I'd met once. This can't be real, I whispered. Thomas nodded. It's real. Eleanor established the trust 3 days after she met you. She called me from her hospital bed and told me exactly what she wanted. The money becomes yours the moment you marry Michael Whitmore, which you did 4 hours ago. Patricia made a sound like a wounded animal. No. That money was supposed to go to Michael. To US. It's family money. It was family money, Thomas interrupted. Until you started stealing it. Eleanor changed her will the day she discovered what you'd done. She left the bulk of her estate to charity. This trust for Rebecca was separate. Untouchable. She wanted Rebecca to have security, independence, a way out if she ever needed one. Richard Whitmore was walking toward us now. His face wasn't gray anymore. It was red, furious. Patricia, tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't steal from my dying mother. Patricia's eyes darted around the ballroom, looking for allies, looking for escape. She found neither. Richard, darling, you have to understand. She wasn't in her right mind. The cancer had spread to her brain. She didn't know what she was doing with her money, so You just stole it, Richard roared. While I sat by her bedside every goddamn day, you were draining her accounts? Michael sank back into his chair. He looked like he might throw up. How could you? But Patricia wasn't done. She never knew when to stop. She turned to me and her face twisted into something cruel. You think this changes anything? You think money makes you one of us? You're still the same little immigrant's daughter playing dress-up in a world you don't understand. Jessica stepped forward. Say one more word to her. I dare you. Or what? Patricia laughed. It sounded hysterical. What are you going to do? You're just another... Jessica threw her champagne in Patricia's face. The entire ballroom gasped. Champagne dripped down Patricia's carefully styled hair, her $4,300 dress, her shocked expression. Oops, Jessica said sweetly. My hand slipped. I should have stopped her. I should have been the bigger person. Instead, I started laughing. Real laughter, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and honest. The kind you can't fake. Thomas smiled slightly. Mrs. Whitmore, I think you should leave. This is my son's wedding. No. Michael's voice cut through everything. He stood up, facing his mother. This is Becca's wedding. And mine. And you just ruined it. Get out. Patricia looked at him like he'd slapped her. Michael, sweetheart, I said get out. His voice cracked. I can't even look at you right now. Richard took Patricia's arm not gently. Come on, we're leaving. And when we get home, you're going to explain every single transaction to me and our lawyer. They walked toward the doors. Patricia tried to hold her head high, but champagne was still dripping from her chin. Every guest watched them leave. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked satisfied. Like they'd just witnessed the final act of a play they'd been waiting years to see. The doors closed behind them with a heavy thud, and then I realized something. I was still holding the trust documents. Still standing in my wedding dress. Still married to a man whose mother had just been exposed as a thief and a bigot at our reception. I looked at Michael. Did you know? About any of this? His silence told me everything. Michael wouldn't look at me. He stared at the floor, at the wall, at anywhere but my eyes. Michael. My voice was steady. Too steady. Did you know your mother was stealing from your grandmother? No. he said it quickly. Too quickly. I swear, Becca, I had no idea about the money. That's not what I asked. I stepped closer. Did you know what she thought of me? What she said about my family? His jaw tightened. The silence stretched between us like broken glass. Jessica grabbed my elbow. Becca, you don't have to do this here. Yes, I do. I didn't take my eyes off Michael. Answer me. He finally looked up. His eyes were wet. She said some things. After we got engaged, I told her to stop. I told her you were amazing and that she needed to give you a chance. What things? Becca, what things? The ballroom was still watching. All 187 guests, frozen like statues, witnessing the implosion of a 4-hour marriage. Michael's voice dropped to a whisper. She said you were using me for our money? That you'd gotten pregnant on purpose to trap me? I'm not pregnant. I know that. I told her that. But she wouldn't listen. She kept saying you came from nothing and you saw me as a meal ticket. He ran his hands through his hair. I defended you, Becca, every single time. But you never told me. My voice cracked. You let me walk into this family thinking I just had to try harder, be better, prove myself. And the whole time she'd already decided I wasn't good enough. Thomas cleared his throat. Perhaps you two should discuss this privately. No, I turned to him. You said Eleanor knew everything. What did she know? He hesitated, glancing at Michael. Tell me, I demanded. Thomas opened his briefcase again and pulled out a small recorder. An old one, the kind that used tiny cassettes. Eleanor asked me to give you this if Patricia acted exactly as she predicted. Which she did. He pressed play. Eleanor's voice filled the ballroom, weak but clear. Rebecca, if you're hearing this, then my daughter-in-law has shown her true colors at your wedding. I'm sorry you had to endure that. I'm sorrier that my grandson allowed it. Michael flinched. Eleanor continued. I met you once, child, and I saw something Patricia will never see. You have spine. You have dignity. You loved my grandson before you knew how much money this family had, because he told me he hid it from you for the first 6 months you dated. He was terrified you'd leave him if you knew. I looked at Michael. You told her that? He nodded miserably. Patricia called you a gold digger at my funeral, Eleanor's voice said. She said it to Richard while standing over my casket. Said you'd probably have Michael divorced and take half his money within 5 years. I was lying right there. And she couldn't wait until they'd buried me to start her poison. My knees went weak. Jessica caught me before I fell. So I'm giving you a choice, Rebecca, Eleanor said. The trust money is yours no matter what. But there's a second envelope in Thomas's briefcase. Open it only if you decide my grandson is worth saving. Open it if you believe he can be the man his father never was, someone who stands up to Patricia instead of cowering. The recording clicked off. Everyone stared at Thomas. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a second envelope. Smaller, sealed with red wax. Your choice, Mrs. Whitmore, he said softly. I looked at the envelope. Then at Michael. He was crying now, silent tears running down his face. Becca, I'm so sorry, he whispered. I should have protected you. I should have told you everything. I was weak, and I let her hurt you, and I'll never forgive myself. Jessica leaned close to my ear. You don't owe him anything. Take the money and walk away. She was right. I could leave right now. Annul the marriage. Start over with $850,000 and my dignity intact. But something Eleanor said stuck in my mind. If you believe he can be the man his father never was. I looked at Richard, who had stolen glances back through the ballroom windows, his face etched with shame and rage at his wife. I looked at Michael, broken and crying. I picked up the second envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper with an address in Portland, Oregon, and a name, Margaret Whitmore, age 32. And underneath it, Eleanor had written, Patricia's secret, the daughter she abandoned, your sister-in-law. I read the paper 3 times before the words made sense. Margaret Whitmore, 32 years old. Patricia's daughter, Michael, had a sister no one had ever mentioned. A sister who didn't exist in any family photo, any family story, any conversation over Sunday brunch. What is this? Michael grabbed the paper from my hands. His face went from confused to shocked to devastated in seconds. This can't be real. I don't have a sister. My mom would have... He stopped. Looked at the paper again. She would have told me. Thomas's expression was grim. Eleanor discovered Margaret's existence 2 years ago. She hired a private investigator after Patricia made an odd comment about mistakes from the past. Margaret was born when Patricia was 29, before she married your father. She gave the baby up for adoption and never told anyone. Why? I asked. My head was spinning. Why would Eleanor tell me this? Because Margaret has been trying to contact Patricia for 5 years, Thomas said. She wants to know her biological mother. Patricia has ignored every letter, every email, every attempt. Eleanor thought you should know what kind of woman you married into. Someone who throws away her own child and then judges you for not being good enough. Jessica let out a low whistle. Holy shit! Michael sank back into his chair. His hands were shaking. I have a sister. And my mom just, what? Pretended she didn't exist? According to Eleanor's investigator, yes. Thomas pulled out another document. Margaret was adopted by a couple in Portland. Good people. They raised her well. She's a social worker now, helps foster kids. She only started searching for Patricia after her adoptive parents died in a car accident 3 years ago. My heart broke for this woman I'd never met, this ghost sister who just wanted to know where she came from. Does my dad know? Michael asked quietly. No. Eleanor kept it secret. She wanted you to decide what to do with the information. Michael looked at me, really looked at me for the first time since Thomas walked in. Why would Grandma give this to you and not me? Because she knew you'd protect your mother, I said, the truth hitting me hard. She knew you'd bury it, keep the family secret. But she thought I might actually do something about it. He couldn't argue. We both knew it was true. Jessica put her hand on my shoulder. What are you going to do? I thought about Patricia's words. You don't belong here. This family has standards. I thought about her stealing from a dying woman. I thought about her calling me a gold digger at Eleanor's funeral. And I thought about Margaret, alone in Portland, wondering why her biological mother wouldn't even acknowledge her existence. I'm going to find her, I said. Margaret, I'm going to find her and bring her here. Thomas nodded slowly. Eleanor hoped you'd say that. That's why she left you the money. She wanted you to have the resources to do what she couldn't. Michael stood up. Becca, wait. If we do this, if we bring Margaret into this mess, my mom will never forgive us. She'll make our lives hell. She's already making my life hell, Michael. She did it in front of 187 people an hour ago. I folded the paper carefully and put it in my clutch. Your grandmother gave me a gift. Not just money. She gave me the truth about who your mother really is. But no, I cut him off. You have a choice right now. You can protect your mother, keep her secrets, let her keep destroying people. Or you can do the right thing. Stand with me. Help me find your sister and give her what she deserves. The ballroom was silent again. Every guest waited for Michael's answer. This was the moment. The fork in the road. Michael looked at his father through the window, then back at me. Okay, he whispered. Okay, let's find her. I didn't smile. Didn't hug him. Didn't celebrate. Because I knew this was just the beginning. Thomas, I said, do you have Margaret's phone number? He smiled. I thought you'd never ask. I called Margaret from the hotel lobby at 9:47 p.m., still wearing my wedding dress. Michael stood beside me, pale and quiet. Jessica had corralled the remaining guests back into the ballroom, somehow convincing the band to keep playing. The phone rang 4 times. I almost hung up. Then a woman's voice answered. Hello. Hi, is this Margaret Whitmore? A pause. Yes, who's calling? My name is Rebecca Chen. This is going to sound insane, but I just married your half-brother Michael 4 hours ago, and I'm calling because your biological grandmother left me information about you and... I was rambling. I forced myself to stop. I'm sorry. Can we start over? Another pause, longer this time. You said Michael? Michael Whitmore? From Seattle? Yes. And Eleanor is dead? She died 8 months ago. I'm so sorry. I heard Margaret take a shaky breath. I sent her a letter. After I found out Patricia was her daughter-in-law, I thought maybe she'd help me connect with my birth mother. She never wrote back. She was very sick by then, I said softly. But she knew about you. She left me your information and asked me to reach out. Why would she do that? Why you? Michael leaned closer to the phone. Because our mother is a monster, and Grandma knew Rebecca was the only one brave enough to tell you the truth. Silence. Then is this a joke? Because if it is, it's cruel. I've been trying to reach Patricia for 5 years. It's not a joke, I interrupted. Patricia said something horrible to me at my wedding reception tonight. In front of everyone. And then we found out she'd been stealing from Eleanor. And then Eleanor's lawyer gave me an envelope with your name in it. I was talking too fast again. Margaret, I know this sounds crazy, but can you come to Seattle? Tomorrow? I'll pay for everything. The flight, the hotel, whatever you need. Why? Her voice broke. Why would you do that? Because you deserve to meet your family. The real ones. Not Patricia. I looked at Michael. He nodded. And because Eleanor wanted you here. She wanted you to know you weren't forgotten. Margaret was crying now. I could hear it. I've imagined this moment for so long, but I never thought it would happen like this. Nothing about today has gone how I imagined, I said. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's better. What's she like? Patricia? Margaret asked quietly. I've seen photos online. She looks perfect. Michael took the phone from me. His hand was shaking. She's not perfect. She's vain and cruel and cares more about appearances than people. But you have other family. Dad Richard, he's flawed but decent. And you have me. A brother you never knew existed, his voice cracked. I'm sorry she gave you up. I'm sorry she ignored you. But I won't. If you want to be part of this mess, I want you here. I heard Margaret sob through the phone. I'll book the first flight tomorrow morning. Text this number when you land, Michael said. We'll pick you up. Okay. She paused. Michael? What's she going to do when she finds out you contacted me? I don't care anymore. His voice was firm, strong, nothing like the weak man who'd stood by while his mother insulted me. She doesn't get to control this family anymore. We hung up. Michael handed me back the phone and slumped against the wall. I can't believe I have a sister. Are you okay? He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. My mother stole from my dying grandmother, insulted my wife at our wedding, and apparently abandoned a baby 32 years ago. So no, Becca, I'm not okay. But I will be. Jessica burst through the lobby doors. The guests are leaving. Your dad came back looking for you. He's furious. I've never seen him like this. He wants to know where Patricia went. She probably went home, Michael said. Then we need to get there first, I said. Before she destroys any evidence of Margaret's existence. Thomas appeared behind Jessica, still carrying his briefcase. I anticipated that concern. I already have copies of everything. Birth certificate, adoption records, Patricia's signed documents from the hospital, all secured in my office safe. Does Patricia know you have them? Michael asked. Not yet. But she will soon? Thomas smiled coldly. Eleanor made me executor of her estate, which means I have the authority to investigate any irregularities, including the $67,482 on $19 Patricia stole. I'm filing a police report tomorrow morning. Jessica's eyes went wide. You're pressing charges? Eleanor's instructions were very clear. If Patricia behaved exactly as expected, which she did, I was to pursue full legal action. Criminal and civil. He looked at Michael. I'm sorry. I know she's your mother. Michael stared at the floor for a long moment. Then he looked up and his eyes were hard. Do it. She earned this. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Margaret. I booked a 6:15 a.m. flight. I landed 8:43. Thank you for calling. Thank you for caring. I've waited so long for someone to care. I showed Michael the text. He closed his eyes. Tomorrow, he whispered. Tomorrow, everything changes. But tomorrow was already too late. Because when we got back to the Whitmore mansion at midnight, We found every light blazing and Patricia standing in the driveway with 3 suitcases, screaming at Richard about betrayal and lies. Patricia's voice echoed through the entire neighborhood. "You're throwing me out? After 28 years of marriage?" Richard stood in the doorway, arms crossed. He looked older than he had at the reception, like he'd aged a decade in 5 hours. "You stole from my dying mother, Patricia. You humiliated our son's wife at their wedding. What did you think would happen? I think you'd remember who stood by you when you had nothing," Patricia screamed. "Who raised your son while you worked 80-hour weeks? Who built your social standing in this city? You built it on lies." Richard's voice was flat. "Thomas showed me the bank statements. All of them. You've been stealing for over a year." Michael's car pulled into the driveway. We all got out slowly. Patricia's eyes locked on me immediately, filled with pure hatred. "You!" she hissed. "This is all your fault. You and that meddling dead woman." "Don't," Richard warned. "Don't make this worse." But Patricia was beyond reason. She rushed toward me. Jessica jumped in front of me, but Patricia shoved past her, her face inches from mine. "What did Eleanor tell you? What lies did she poison you with?" "The truth," I said quietly. "About Margaret," Patricia froze. The color drained from her face. "What did you say?" "Margaret Whitmore. Your daughter. The one you abandoned 32 years ago." I held up my phone. "She's flying here tomorrow morning. She wants to meet her family." "No." Patricia's voice was a shriek. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to destroy my life because of one mistake I made as a girl." "She's not a mistake," Michael shouted. "She's my sister, and you threw her away like garbage." Patricia spun toward her son. Tears ran down her face, ruining her makeup. "Michael, sweetheart, you don't understand. I was young. I wasn't ready. The father was nobody, nothing. I gave her a better life. You ignored her letters," I said. "For 5 years. She reached out and you pretended she didn't exist." Richard stepped forward. "You have a daughter? Another child?" His voice shook. "When were you planning to tell me?" Patricia's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. That's what I thought. Richard picked up her suitcases and carried them to her car. "You can stay at your sister's house. We'll discuss divorce terms through lawyers." "Divorce?" Patricia laughed hysterically. "You can't divorce me. I'll take half of everything you own." "Actually," Thomas said, stepping out of his car, "you'll take nothing. Washington is a community property state, but theft and fraud change things considerably, especially when the stolen funds came from your husband's mother." Patricia looked around wildly. At Richard. At Michael. At the house she'd lived in for almost 3 decades. And finally, at me. "This isn't over," she whispered. "Margaret showing up changes nothing. I'm still Michael's mother. I'm still part of this family." "No," Michael said. "You're not." "Not anymore." Patricia got into her car. She sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. Then she drove away, taillights disappearing into the Seattle night. Richard turned to us. "She had another daughter." "All this time?" He looked broken. "What else don't I know?" Michael put his hand on his father's shoulder. "We'll find out together. As a family. A real one this time." I checked my phone. 12:47 a.m. In 8 hours, Margaret would land. In 8 hours, everything would change again. Jessica squeezed my hand. "You did good, Becca, but I didn't feel good. I felt exhausted and scared and still wearing my $2,147 wedding dress that now smelled like champagne and tears." "Let's go inside," Richard said quietly. "We have a lot to talk about before morning." And we did. Because Patricia wasn't done. I could feel it. She was never the type to go quietly. Margaret's flight landed at 8:43 a.m. Michael and I were waiting at arrivals, exhausted and running on coffee. I saw her before she saw us. She had Patricia's sharp cheekbones but warmer eyes. Brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. Jeans and a sweater. She looked terrified. "Margaret!" I called out. She turned. Her eyes filled with tears immediately. "Rebecca?" We hugged. This stranger, this sister, this woman who deserved so much better than what she got. Michael stepped forward. "I'm Michael. They stared at each other. Brother and sister meeting for the first time. You look like our dad, Margaret whispered. You look like Mom, Michael said. But kinder. Margaret laughed through her tears. Is she here? Patricia? No, I said. Richard kicked her out last night. But there's someone who wants to meet you. We drove to the Whitmore mansion. Richard was waiting on the front steps, nervous and fidgeting. Margaret got out of the car slowly. You're Richard? He nodded. I didn't know about you. I swear, if I'd known... It's not your fault, Margaret said softly. She made her choice. Richard broke down. This powerful businessman crying on his front lawn. You're my daughter. I have a daughter, they hugged. Michael joined them. A family forming from broken pieces, but then a car screeched into the driveway. Patricia. She stumbled out, mascara smeared, still wearing yesterday's champagne-stained dress. She'd been drinking. A lot. Get away from them, Margaret, she slurred. You don't belong here. You never did. Margaret's face crumpled. 32 years of rejection, all over again. That's when I stepped forward and said the words Eleanor had written in her final letter. The words she'd asked me to say if this moment came. Patricia Whitmore, you're not just a thief and a bigot. You're a coward who throws away everything good because you're too afraid to be human. And then I handed Margaret the third envelope Thomas had given me that morning. The one that made Patricia fall to her knees. Screaming! Margaret opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a check, made out to Margaret Whitmore, for $850,000, the exact amount Eleanor had left to me. What? Margaret looked at me, confused. This is your money. From the trust. No, I said. It's yours. Eleanor left it to me, but she wrote instructions. If I found you, if you came here, if you were everything she hoped you'd be, the money was always meant for you. Thomas stepped forward. Eleanor knew Patricia would never accept Margaret, so she created a backup plan. The trust was a test. To see if you'd do the right thing, Rebecca, Patricia screamed from the ground. You can't give her that money. It's not yours to give. Actually, Thomas said calmly, it is. The trust documents give Rebecca full discretion. And I have Eleanor's sealed letter explaining her true wishes. Margaret was crying. Why? Why would she do this for me? She never even met me. Because she knew what it felt like to be thrown away by this family, I said. And she wanted you to have what Patricia tried to take from both of us. Security, freedom, a choice. Richard knelt beside Patricia. It's over. Sign the divorce papers. Let them go. Patricia looked up at Margaret. At the daughter she'd abandoned. At the money she'd never get. At the family she'd destroyed. I gave you life, she whispered to Margaret. Margaret's voice was steady, strong. No, you gave birth to me. My real parents gave me life. They gave me love. They gave me everything you were too selfish to provide. She folded the check carefully. Thank you, Rebecca. And thank Eleanor. I'll use this to help kids like me. Foster children who need families. Michael put his arm around Margaret. You have a family now. A real one. 6 months later, I stood in that same ballroom. Different event. Margaret's wedding to her girlfriend, Sarah. The Whitmore family, Richard, Michael, me, and 24 relatives who'd embraced Margaret immediately, filled the front rows. Patricia wasn't invited. She'd moved to Arizona, alone. Richard's lawyers had destroyed her in the divorce. The police had charged her with elder theft. She got 2 years probation and had to repay every cent. As Margaret and Sarah exchanged vows, I felt Michael squeeze my hand. Thank you, he whispered, for being brave when I wasn't. Thank you for becoming the man your grandmother knew you could be. Eleanor's portrait hung on the wall, watching over us. I raised my glass to her. She'd given me more than money. She'd given me purpose, family, truth. And in the end, that was worth everything.